Hey everyone! As your financial advisor today, I want to bring your attention to something incredibly important, something Kevin O'Leary, one of the most outspoken and successful business minds of our time, recently shared. And when Kevin speaks, I listen. You should too. He recently made some bold statements, and I believe it's crucial we understand the weight of what he's saying, not just from a political standpoint, but for our investments, our businesses, and our future. Now let's talk straight. Kevin O'Leary said what's coming is worse than a recession, and he wasn't saying that to scare you. He was stating it to prepare you. He believes we are on the brink of something much bigger, a full-scale global trade realignment. And the center of this conversation? China. He mentioned that the proposed 104% tariffs on Chinese goods are not enough. He's advocating for 400%. Let that sink in. He's not saying that lightly. Kevin has done business in China, he knows the terrain, and he's tired of the games. He stated that China doesn't play by the rules. They've been in the World Trade Organization for decades, yet they've consistently ignored the rules they agreed to. Kevin said, and I quote, "They cheat, they steal IP. These aren't just opinions, these are experiences of a businessman who has tried to operate fairly in a system that's fundamentally imbalanced." He explained that even if his intellectual property is stolen in China, he can't do anything about it. The courts don't allow foreign entities to litigate fairly. He loses tech, product ideas, and innovations. And then they're manufactured and sold back to America. This isn't just bad business. It's an economic attack on innovation.
Kevin O'Leary made it clear he's had enough, and he says he's not alone.
He speaks for millions of American entrepreneurs who have experienced the same theft, the same frustration. But it's not about the people of China. And he made that clear too. He respects the Chinese people, their culture, their intellect, but the Chinese government, as he stated, cheats, steals, and manipulates. And finally, he sees an administration, love Trump or hate him, that's putting its foot down and saying enough is enough. Now here's where it gets strategic. Kevin suggested that if we impose massive tariffs, Xi Jinping would be forced to come to Washington to negotiate. Why? Because employment in China depends on exports. If the US, which represents 39% of all consumables and 25% of the world's GDP, tightens its grip, China feels the squeeze. We hold the cards, Kevin said, but we won't hold them forever. It's time to play strong while we can. But he didn't just talk about China. Kevin also pointed to recent movements in the Eurozone. He mentioned that just 48 hours ago, for the first time in decades, the Eurozone said, "We're willing to go to zero on zero," meaning no tariffs on any goods, services, or industries between the US and Europe. That's huge. That's the kind of free trade Kevin's been advocating for, and it's a massive win for the US. And as he stated, forget about Israel or Thailand or Cambodia. This is Europe, one of the largest economies on Earth. He also emphasized the importance of differentiating between countries that can be trade partners and those that can't due to scale. He gave the example of Thailand, a country with a $35 billion economy and a $200 billion trade deficit. There's no way they'll have trade parity, but we can still go zero on zero with them. The real win, according to Kevin, is when countries start saying, "You drop your tariffs, we'll drop ours." That's how you create real fair trade. He mentioned that Trump is using this strategy across 60-plus countries, examining old tariff structures that haven't been updated since World War II. He pointed out that many of these systems are completely outdated and unfair to US exporters. He explained that many states rely heavily on trade, especially with Canada, and that while we're seeing some friction now, this is more of a rough patch in a long marriage, a 100-year relationship hitting a tough moment. And Kevin believes negotiations will bring balance again. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Are we heading into a recession? Kevin doesn't think so, at least not yet. He stated clearly that while there's market correction happening, as it does roughly every 18 months, he hasn't seen any deep recession signals across the 54 companies he monitors. Companies across all 11 sectors. Yes, consumers are worried. Yes, there's volatility. But he reminded us, take the noise away from the signal. He believes the economy is still strong, consumers are still spending. And if these negotiations go the right way, we might come out stronger, not weaker. Kevin also mentioned that half of the current tariffs across 60-plus countries could be negotiated away fairly quickly, especially with countries like Canada, Britain, Switzerland, all of which are under different types of political and economic pressure. And when you talk about Canada specifically, he stated that political instability has made the economic situation even more complex. He pointed out that 25% of Canadians live in poverty, and their economy has had no growth for 10 years. So Canada and others like it may not have much choice but to negotiate. Kevin's takeaway: don't panic, be prepared. He believes this is not just about short-term tariffs or trade tiffs. This is about restructuring the global economy. It's about leveling the playing field. It's about long-term fairness for U.S. businesses and workers. And for investors like you and me, this means staying informed, thinking strategically, and not reacting emotionally to headlines. Yes, there's uncertainty, but Kevin O'Leary made it crystal clear this is a negotiation. A massive global tough-as-nails negotiation. And in his words, you've got to separate the noise from the signal. So my advice: stay educated, stay focused. And remember, smart investing isn't about reacting, it's about understanding the long game. Subscribe for more.